Here we go. Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm Alexis, the founder of Fanfaire, and I have Alyssa, my co-host. Want to introduce yourself, Alyssa?
Hi, everybody. My name is Alyssa Lane, and I am with NWI Party and Party Lane in the Chicagoland area. How are you today?
Good, good. So I'm super excited for today. As you guys know, Alyssa has a huge business in the Chicagoland area, and she has several employees. She's been able to scale it, and so we were talking about like how do you go on vacation? How do you plan a weekend away from your business when you're so in the day to day? And so it comes down to having the right systems in place and setting up a standard operating procedure. And so, if you want to really scale your business, there's a lot of things that you need to do. And so, just Alyssa going through this exercise to put this presentation together, she had been obviously recently working on this. She's going out of town for a concert coming up. And she was like, do I have everything in place? Like she's been, she's had these systems in place for a long time, but she just, going back through that made her really think and start to document out some additional things. This might be a two-part, two-part, even three-part session
It will be.
because there's so much good content here that we don't want to just rush through it. Um, but that's kind of the intent of today's call. And then I also wanted to say that today is a really exciting day for Fanfare. It's been a long haul to get the design studio out there. We have a lot of customers who have adopted it, and now our designs are going from the design studio to the front of the platform, and we've made some like really nice enhancements to the images, and the front end is like a much better experience. We have like custom labeling everywhere. Like there's new functionality on the design part where like you can actually like rotate things. There's like a lot of really cool stuff out there. So I invite you to go play with my demo store. It's all the new designs and full like the full new platform. You can also still use our old Fanfare. I don't want to call them old. They're not old. They've already been around that long, but they're not old. You can still borrow from the Fanfare catalog, and those designs and your designs can coexist in your digital storefront. So we're making it easy for people to get started quickly by borrowing our designs, but also very personalized and their brand, their look, their feel, their colors, everything from the design studio to the digital storefront. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Alyssa for today's presentation. Thank you guys for being here.
Hi, everybody. Okay, so as Alexis mentioned, one of the things that was the impetus for me to do this is because we are leaving to go out of town on Thursday, and we're going to be gone for the entire weekend. And usually when I do travel, I try to, turn down anything that would be a really big job and just keep standard jobs going so that it's easier for the team to be able to set up and take it down. And when we were planning, it's I looked back at the year, and the last 2 years, our first weekend of September was really busy, and our third weekend of September was really busy, and our second weekend had hardly anything. And this year, I think it's because of where Labor Day fell, since it ended up being like on the first of the month instead of being on like the sixth of the month. Um, it just we're so busy. And I only booked like the regular corporate jobs, but the jobs that we ended up booking ended up being really, really big jobs too. So, which is great, fantastic for our business. But an annual event that's called Sports Fest, that has three different locations outside, is rebooked for this weekend instead of being the first weekend of September like last year. And then we ended up having one that was the third weekend pushed to this weekend for a wine fest. And that, of course, has a ton of custom balloon garland and um, just like double stack marquee outdoors. And so as you all know, it's, we have in our heads a lot of times how we put things together, but when we're dispatching a team, it's one thing to have them set up a backdrop wall with a garland hanging from it. It's another thing when we need to be at multiple locations, multiple places on site, and I'm not going to be able to be there. So what I had to do was really refine my processes as I was going to be gone to make sure that everybody is going to be in really good shape so that my team is not stressed out and so that my clients aren't stressed out and they still have just as successful of a weekend and for their events as if I was going to be present. So, and this is just really good for anybody who wants to scale, because otherwise, how do we even get away, right? It's just, how do we do it? I've left vacations early in the past, like gone during the week and then come home for the weekend because I couldn't be gone. And so the rest of my family stayed for 2 more days than I stayed. And it's just not a great way to do things or to run your business. So I'm going to try to keep you from doing that. Um, I really want this to be interactive, so I set things up as a workbook. So if you guys want to go off of mute, so that way you could ask questions. Have you all copied the workbook?
No.
Okay,
Yes.
so let's go in and I'll copy our workbooks. So who has a lot of SOPs in place already?
I have a lot of canned emails and workflows and things in place.
Okay. So, and yeah, it's fantastic to have those. And I think I'm talking more about like the operating procedures for when we're going to be out of town, because that's what's going to make, and even when we are in town, because that's what's going to make sure that we have consistency and quality and that we're working smarter and that we don't leave anything behind. Because who's ever like gotten to a job and forgotten some things, like left them behind by mistake?
It
Yes.
happens to the best of us.
Or just like pulled over on the road because you're like, did I pack this or not? So
Get to
yeah,
the venue, no basis.
yeah. Or else you're if you have a team that maybe does strike and then all of a sudden it's the next day and you realize that they left something behind too. Has anyone had that happen as well? So
Yeah.
and I've had that happen a few times, and sometimes you could get it back. Sometimes the venue trashes it because they'll throw everything into the garbage, even if you put your name and phone number on it. And it could cost you, hundreds or thousands of dollars over a year if you do end up having things that get left behind or broken. Like we had an event that had 6 aero pulse bases out one weekend, and all of the everything got picked up, but 2 of the bases ended up being left behind. And even though they all have all of our information on it, and we called on that Monday when we realized it because we were putting things away, they had no idea where they were. So it's just, what do you do? You end up just then you're completely out of that money. So does everyone have the workbook?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm actually going to have us start with tab 3, which is more, who here has employees? Does anyone, because I don't want to go over sections that might not apply to people.
I do.
Yeah, does anyone else?
I have had employees and I'm hoping to, but my part-time employees have left, so I'm hoping to find new ones.
Okay, great. So
You know where this
go
is
ahead and
going. I have a business partner and I have a tear down guy. So
yeah, and
Yeah.
anytime that you have it, even if it's just like your partner or a friend who's helping you on a weekend, then you still need to have things in place. I do want to talk about the difference really quick between like employees and contractors. So because if you have somebody who's helping you one time, then that could be a contractor. But and I know that this varies from state to state, but you will want to check your local laws, because I had actually had my business insurance dropped for me once. And the reason why is because they did an audit of our payroll for our payroll insurance for our workman's comp, and people who were contractors, they did not all have their workman's comp. So it was just, and I didn't realize that they needed to have that policy. So it's just something that you really need to make sure and look at, like that your employees are truly employees, that if you need workman's comp or anything, that you are going to have that. So I like to systemize my onboarding, and I do use Square for my payroll. So I'm able to go into Teams, and that's where I keep both my clock and then they also do my payroll. And for me, with the size team that I have, it ended up being the most efficient way to do it and the most price effective way to do it. But one of the things that you want to make sure of too is if they're driving a van, do you have a copy of their insurance? Are they covered by your insurance if they're driving a vehicle? Make sure that you're just contacting everybody. So I do have that employee training checklist, and the onboarding is the first part of it. And I have a section for you to just take a minute and to write in your answers to some of these questions. And if you've done it, because I really just want you to think about it. The next thing that you want to go over with them, even if it's just part-time help, is going to be dress code, because you want everybody to look professional and also to be safe. So what are they wearing? Are they able to be flexible? Could they stand up? Could they sit down? Are their shoes closed toes? Do you have just any special requirements that they're going to need for their dress code? The next part that you would want to go through would be your opening and closing procedures. And that would be, yeah.
Like, what is the dress code for your team? I would say that we're very casual. Sneakers, workout gear, because we're like sweating, we're climbing on ladders and stuff. Like, do you have like what?
Yeah, so we actually all have to wear closed-toed shoes. I prefer sneakers, nothing open toe ever. I don't like for them to wear jeans, which I know is kind of crazy, but I like for everybody to be wearing something that has an elastic waistband, whether it's usually like, I call them like my professional sweatpants, but I have like pants that aren't quite joggers because they're open at the bottom, but they have the elastic waist or a high waist, because what I don't want is for when people are going up and down on a ladder, or if you're reaching and then all of a sudden you have your booty hanging out. So, but I also don't want my staff to be, self-conscious or worrying about it either. Like, because now if you're in a situation where you're stretching, then it could create an unsafe work environment. If you're stretching and then all of a sudden you realize that your pants are falling down, you're trying to hike up your pants while you're reaching for something on a ladder. So I just like to have people, and then we wear business t-shirts, we have business sweatshirts. I just like very, very, when we're not in uniform, then we need to be in business casual. So, and sometimes we do that when we go to nicer venues, we wear a business casual plus a name tag. And for that, we wear a lot of jumpsuits. Like I have several like jumpsuits, and it's for the same reason, because you could stretch, you could squat, you could be on the ground, and you're going to be comfortable because it feels like you're, in a onesie, you're in pajamas. So, but yet you look a little bit more professional than wearing my, like joggers and a t-shirt. We don't do a lot of shorts. We do shorts if it's super hot and we're outside, but that's really it. How about you guys? Does anyone else have dress codes, or what do you do?
We used to have company shirts at the beginning,
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. But then as we started working more with event planners or production companies, they didn't want any branding.
Yes.
So, we do wear, I mean, here in California it gets hot sometimes, and we're outdoors and it's California casual. So we wear a lot of shorts and t-shirts, or we do wear jeans and t-shirts. That's kind of like the look of it, but pretty casual.
Yeah.
That-
Yeah. I mean, we definitely keep it casual. We know that we're moving around, but that's the other reason that I have a lot of black jumpsuits, is when we are subcontracting for another company or working for a production company that doesn't want to have the branding, then we're all going to be there in like our black jumpsuit. So it still looks like we're a team, is what I like. And we even have some that are like rompers, which kind of serves the same purpose as well. Okay. Anyone have any questions there? Hair and tie back hair, please. Tie back hair, watch loose jewelry, other things. You just don't want anything to be caught or to be a hazard. Okay, so we do have opening and closing procedures, and that could include anybody who, if you don't have a studio or a space, just how do they start their shift? How do they end their shift? Like, do they need to log in? What are they going to be checking for? What are going to be their tasks? And it's really nice to have that written up for all of your staff members. So that way, if you're not going to be there at the start of their shift, because I've had people working since 9 a.m., but I haven't had to be there since 9 a.m. They already knew exactly what they were supposed to do for the day, checked in, let me know that they were there, started their production schedule, send me pictures as they're going, as they complete every task for approval. So that's really just our way of doing things. But in order to do that, we also need, more systems in place because they need to be able to know what they're working on. Okay, so who has a opening procedure? Are you always there with your staff, or do they sometimes get working on their own?
My staff comes in the mornings. I don't come in as early because I work later.
Yeah.
And so they're there in the mornings and they do have their routine. They know, they check the board when they come in, they turn on the helium, the compressor, and then start getting the deliveries get done first, like prepared and everything, so that the driver can come in, pick them up and take them. And then they go on to getting things ready for the next day, checking to see any future jobs, to see what needs to be ordered. And then at the end of the day, and this is all happening home based. So I mean, I'll be upstairs in my bedroom. They're downstairs working in the office. And then at the end of the day, they go ahead and check and make sure, okay, everything's put away, and that the compressor and the helium get turned off, and stuff. And then when they do jobs when I'm not around, the same thing. They make sure everything's locked up, and so.
Yeah, and Tiffany wrote in the chat that she leaves instructions for her assistant. So what does that look like, Tiffany? Is it just written instructions per day? Do they have the same standard for when they are checking in every single day? And again, that's the reason that I made this more of a workbook, because I want you to be thinking about these questions, because everybody's business is going to look a little bit different. So I'm trying to teach you more like how to write these standard operating procedures than giving you what I have, because what we do probably isn't going to be applicable to most of your businesses. But if you don't have these, even if it's just you, I feel like it's a really good to just get them on paper, because otherwise you're scrambling to figure it out when you do hire somebody. So just like start to write everything down. How do you need things done? If you were going to be your own employee, then what type of information would you need? Because having everything inside our head is not duplicatable and you will burn out. Trust me. I mean, we all know people who are burning out, right?
Yeah.
So we have opening procedures and closing procedures. So okay, so Tiffany said that she leaves inflation instructions. So that's a different every day. And I have that too for my production. But again, they need to know like where to find it. Where are all of the supplies? Where are their instructions going to be? Do they have their recipes? Is everything written out? Because if you don't have recipes for everything, then they're not going to be able to create what you have. Who has recipes for their entire menu? Oh, nice. Trello's fantastic. Yeah. Does anyone else know what Trello is? Okay. Yeah. So Trello is like almost like an online meeting. We have Google Workspace, so we use Google Keep. So which works kind of similar to Trello. Where we're able to create notes, and then it has checklists, and then they're able to check off everything that they need to do. So that's our way of communicating with our team during the day. Yeah, and project boards are really great too. So we do, just so that you know, like our standard for it. We have it on we have a project board that has the assignment for what we want to get produced during the week in one color, plus our delivery schedule in another color, and entertainment schedule in a third color. And then we also have our Google Calendar, which is the same thing. We just like to have it be a little bit more visual too, because on the calendar, the calendar isn't going to follow the production schedule, but we want to make sure that they are going to be able to be when things need to be completed by, so that it's all going to be done when it needs to go out. And how far do you guys work in advance?
It all depends on how busy my week is, but
Mm-hmm.
we can go from sometimes maybe 2, then
Mm-hmm.
maybe a few days. It all
Yeah.
varies.
Yeah. So same. And it seems like 2 to 3 days is pretty standard. Unless if we have a lot of weekday jobs, we try to work about 5 days in advance. So that way we're keeping up with it. And that way we could try to have everything done for the weekend by Wednesday. And the reason that that's our goal is so then if we have last minute jobs or different things add, then we're able to still fit that into our production schedule. Whereas if we're only working 2 days out, if we start something on Wednesday for Friday and then we have another job ad, we might not be able to take it. So that's why we add a little bit more. And like this week is really heavy for us. So we actually had all of the small orders for this week. So we had all of the single orders, like just the garlands that go on the backdrops. We had those all completed by last week, Friday. So then yesterday, we were able to just jump straight into the larger jobs for this weekend, especially because we have a few sculptures that are going out. It's going to be so cute. So, um, okay. Yeah, we're still on tab 3. Sorry, I'm looking at myself. I don't like that. Okay. Um, so I also find that it's nice just to have like outlined what are all of their additional tasks going to be that they need to have. Like, are they responsible for cleaning? Who cleans up every station? What happens with the balloons after they work on their job box? So we have a job box for the different jobs. What we do is we keep a lot of additional inventory. So unless if we're really something has a ton of balloons, like more than one bag of a color, then we don't pull it until 2 weeks ahead of time. If it's something where it's going to have, like 15 bags of reflex red and 15 bags of mirror blue, then what we're going to do is we're going to pull that. We're going to place the order for it and create a job box because we're special ordering in for it as soon as the order comes in. Same thing with foils. We pull all foils immediately just to make sure that we're going to be able to get them because sometimes not everything is available from a single distributor, especially with foils. So then we need to, make sure, even if it's 6 weeks out, that we're going to be able to have that in stock when the order comes around, because if they're back ordered, we don't really want to be making changes. Like we will if we have to, but we try not to. And then they build the order, and then we keep at least a half a bag, depending upon how big the job is, but between a half a bag to a full bag, in the job box, and that goes out with them for the weekend. So then we move it to there. We click it off on our production, we put our job box together, and then we put that to the side with the job. What do you guys do for that part when you work on it so that you have everything you need?
We use the job box method as well, things go into a tray and then they kind of go through the tray and see if there's anything out of the ordinary for the ones that are coming up that week,
Mhm.
so that we have time to order it. Or if we see a big job, I let them know so that that way they can start checking our stock and getting stuff because, I mean, sometimes it's been difficult to source materials, especially blue and during
Mhm.
graduation season. You can find it anywhere. And it was
Mhm.
so hard to, get it. So yeah, trying to do that and to source the materials.
Yeah, same. And if we ever notice that a color is back ordered, then we actually look for it and we do pull that right away too and put it put it with it. And sometimes too, like if we like right now we can't get in retro white 18-inch at any of our distributors. So we've actually been saving all of our retro whites and deflating them.
Oh my gosh, that's a
And
lot
then
of work.
re-putting them in. I mean, I have some retro white 18-inch
You
that
love that color.
we've used it like 4 or 5 times the same balloon because we just keep on taking it off. The other ones, I don't know if but it's amazing how much it'll withstand it as long as it's not outside. But so that's something that we also need to know, like, are things back ordered? So that comes again into when you're ordering, having that be in part of your SOP. What are you going to do during those times? Are you just going to risk it and possibly change a color or change your recipe, which is, we've done both of those too, but we always prefer to have it. And yeah, we use a ton of retro white. It's like we use retro white more than white, except for like schools. It's just a really good color for us. Okay. And I know some people, it's pretty, if you're not familiar with it, it's very similar to lace. It's just not, it doesn't have a sheen. So, and it's so easy on your fingers because of that.
It's a cool tone. It's a cool tone. So it has like
Yeah.
almost like a light gray undertone. So it's like very neutral, whereas lace has like a warm undertone of like yellow ivory.
I think I feel like it's a little bit yellowish. Mine is because
Retro white?
yeah, when I have them together, they're interchangeable. Like you can't even tell the difference between them sometimes, except for the sheen. So yeah,
Palestine makes it.
I'm trying to think. And I know, and there's also like the pastel dust cream, which will sometimes go into the
I love
Sempertex
that
color. I love
love
it, but to me it's a little pinky. So it
Yeah.
doesn't always, which is why we do more retro white, unless if we can't get it in, then we use that or we use lace instead. Okay. Let's move on to tab 4. So because this is going to be talking about your job box. Sorry, I am not there. Okay, so we do have a business policies and procedures, and I have everybody read that when they start. And what I did is I copied it into here, but then I just kind of took out some of my information just because I want you to fill in your information. But I left in the things that I felt like were very, very pertinent. So we're going to be moving to loading and departing. So first they review the job. We pull all of the inventory. We make sure that all the inventory is in really good condition. Have you ever like pulled out a foil that was sitting a little bit longer and then you opened it up and it had the creases in it or it was sticking? So just make sure that everything is okay. Same thing for the job. What we're doing is we're making sure that we have all of the bags. Since we do pre-inflate, we pull it up, we look at it. Has anything deflated? Does anything need attention? I should say that we bag everything after we make it. And we tend to use a lot of the big green bags and we use mattress bags, like the zipper ones. So we have some big black ones and then we have some clear ones. And we then use tape, masking tape, and we put that on every single bag that goes with it. And we write down the last name of the person, the date that it goes out, the time that it goes out, and how many bags there are. So it'll say, for instance, Alexis, 9/7, 3 p.m., 1 of 3, 2 of 3, 3 of 3. And then in addition to that, we like create a little corral for it. So we either, depending how much we have, we sometimes hang them all next to each other. And sometimes we corral them next to each other where we actually use bases and pulls as dividers. And we put those all into like their separate little sections so that they're sitting together. The reason that we do that is because we have had a bag left behind, even though the bags are all numbered, because people were, we had a lot of stuff out. They were grabbing bags and they saw that it needed like 2 of 3, but there were 2 people loading and one of them ended up getting just like pushed to the side and they left it to the side instead of being brought all the way out to the vehicle. So we found that that helps with it a little bit. We haven't had the mistake since we started doing corrals because it's just easier to find. It's not getting moved around. It's not getting lost. So we make sure that we have everything that we need. I have another checklist down there for loading the vehicle. Do we have our sandbags? Do we have our walls? Just that type of checklist. And we check everything off as we get it into the van. So I think it's really important just to make sure that everybody is completely trained on this. So does anybody want to talk about what their loading procedure is, or do they have anything different that they find helpful for the group?
Yours sounds more organized than mine. I mean, I have a business partner, so we'll verbally be like, okay, do we have 260s? What kind of tape do we have? Are we doing like the Cricut lettering? Do we have backup Cricut lettering? Like we just like kind of like go through all the things that we need for that event and then load it up into, we have like a big canvas bag that we kind of like roll our stuff into that's like our logo on it. And then we kind of like double check in the morning like psychos, even though we already know that we put the stuff in the bag. So that's like the night before, like after we've finished whatever it is. And so we'll do that by event. And then we actually do all the stuff at my house. So we will load the stuff into this one spare bedroom of mine that based on like the times. So it's like the first one's first, but we've made the mistake of leaving like, a smaller bag of like 5-inch balloons or whatever behind in there. So now it's like just going through the room like once more before we leave. Like, because even though you have it all organized, like you can still forget the bag of whatever it is. So I mean, we just say it out loud and then double check and second guess ourselves for like 15 minutes every time. You know what I mean? So it's a bit of a painful process, but and then we're like, we gotta go. So
Yeah.
We use stickies on the paperwork. So we have the invoice up on the board and everything. We've already checked it. Everything's been labeled, all the bags and everything, but we still go ahead and on the invoice, I'll use stickies and put, grab 2 large bases for this order. Don't, it contains candy or just little things that are yellow posted that stand out because during the morning or if it's hectic, they'll see the post-it much easier than a checklist.
Yeah, we used to use stickies and then we had some fall off. Because post-it notes aren't that adhesive. So we've actually have gone to using a colored sticker for them. And one of them is, and it also helps us to notify, like just to let us know what we're going to need to do ahead of time too. For instance, we put, we put a pink sticker on it if it needs vinyl, and then it goes into the vinyl one because we try to pre-cut our vinyl all ahead of time too. We usually do that on Mondays, but sometimes if we have a slower week, then we'll, do it a couple weeks in advance if we could sometimes get through all of the other vinyl and get that weeded. We put a green sticker on it a yellow sticker on it if it needs foils. So that way we could, just be alerted that we're going to need that. And then we also put a green sticker on it if it's going to need props. So that way we know if we're going to need additional things such as the props. But it's just really nice because then you're not accidentally like forgetting your bag of Starburst, or if you didn't inflate all of your foils yet, you could make sure that that's in the job box still. Same thing with vinyl, just making sure that you don't leave your vinyl behind. So, because we have also done that too. So, because we don't put our vinyl on our backboards before they get there. Does anybody do that? Put their vinyl on early?
I mean, I've done that when there's like a really, really close time crunch. But I worry it's going to get messed up in the transport. I don't know if that's crazy to think that because it comes home usually looking good, but we always do it on site just because we want the balloons to be like it all to be lined up just perfectly.
Yeah. And so I have had a letter roll off, and I do keep that tiny Cricut too, thank goodness, because we have had it get damaged. I know that Fatima said that was it Fatima?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. So you put your vinyl on early. Do you wrap it or anything ahead of time to make sure that it doesn't, because I've had letters like roll and crinkle is what
I
happened.
had no problems with it.
Okay.
I mean, if it's on a backboard or something, generally the backboard goes at the bottom or on the side of the van, and then I just put a moving blanket right on it.
Okay.
So nothing, nothing rubs on it.
Yeah. So
I
ours was a
also
day where we had like multiple backboards and we do put them face to face sometimes, depending on the size of them. And then we put a piece of foam in between them. And those are the times where we did have an issue with vinyl coming off. And also when it's colder, because if it's cold, Jess, I think that the adhesive loosens up.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you do it in your studio and really rub it on in a warm studio, it tends to stick even when you go out in the cold then, because DC can get cold.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And then, so Tiffany said that her assistant occasionally helps with loading and setup, and that it's usually her doing the loading, that she loads the air filled first and then the helium. So that way she could unload the helium first. So it's funny that you say that because I usually put my helium in first because I don't want to ever open up the door and it's windy and my helium ends up being like and scooping out at me. So I do that the exact opposite. The other thing that we've started to do with our helium when we don't, depending on how big a job it is that we've now been using our bungee cords to keep our helium like secured to the side of the van too. So, and that's worked really well because then it's not moving. So they just don't get as tangled and we're able to pull them out a little bit faster too. Loading helium is always the worst, right? All these people who've never had an issue with anything. So I'm like, I've had an issue with everything. We are in the Windy City though. I've had literally like a bouquet, like just opened up the door and a bouquet just like went and flew out over my head. I like couldn't even catch it. We weren't watching it and it was like 25-mile-an-hour wind gusts that day. There was no way to get it. Yeah, we bag everything too. Okay, so Fatima said that she also uses the project board with a checklist pack list. And sometimes still screws up, we all do. And that they also have colored labels for vinyl, helium, marquee rental, etc. So yeah, I find that having things color coded is really good for us because it just gives us that trigger both to make sure that it's completed early and also to make sure that it is packed in with us. So we are double checking the form when we always double check that when we go into the car. Keeping things on a clipboard, I know that it sounds really basic, but that was something that really was pretty changing for us in terms of not forgetting things either during the delivery or after pickup, just because we have it as the reminder in front of us, just every single time. Okay. So for on-site setup and delivery procedure, I think that it's really important if you have other people who are doing this, but even for yourself, to make sure that everybody is following the same process when they are doing a delivery for you. So you might want to write out your steps for that. And it could be simple things such as when you arrive, do you just bring things in right away or do you go in and you find the room, you find your contact? Do you text them or call them when you're on the way to let them know your exact ETA instead of knowing the approximate window that you're going to be coming in? Where are you going to be, just like, is it written on the forms? Do they know where things are going to be set up? Are you going to verify that with the team when you get there? And then just, having a final review of it after you set it up and always taking pictures. When we have somebody else who does the setup, they always take photos of it, every single step to make sure. I know that might seem redundant, but sometimes they'll send me like the marquees and I'll be like, the bottom wasn't centered. So, you need to center the bottom of the marquees. Just little things that could get overlooked because I don't want them to have a full setup and then I'm spotting a mistake. So it's easier for me to know when they're out that they're going to, put the marquees up, they're going to take a picture. Okay, go ahead with the balloons. And if they don't get in contact with me in 1 minute, then they're going to be calling me instead of standing around waiting for me as well. But I usually know that if they're on a delivery, then I'm, pretty in touch with them. The only time that's hard is when I'm also on deliveries because I might be busy doing something and not see my phone. What are your procedures during your load-ins and setups? RC is solo, but uses her son's help. I know it's nice to have that extra hand. So, okay. So we're all really good on site. We all have that down. So we'll be able to write our procedures for that. Okay. So, and then you want to make some like training notes. How are you going to train your team on that to make sure that, so what I do for it is when I'm training my team is that if I know that they're going to start to do solo installs, is then I have them take control of it. Like I'm their assistant for the day instead of them being my assistant for the day. So that way they're the person who has to do all of the steps. So they have to find it, they have to contact, they're going to be doing the full setup. And if they have any questions, then, I'm going to help them out with that. But I really just want them to be able to do it with me there without me stepping in before they're going out on their own so that they're set up for success. The other thing that I sometimes do is, for instance, since we're going to be gone this weekend and three of our jobs are outdoor setups and the one has multiple locations. So we went and I took her to the site because it's complicated for where we need to go in. Where do you drive to park for one? Where do you drive to park for two? This road is going to be closed. So then when she gets there on that date, she's going to be able to go and deliver to all three locations without having any questions. And then I also took her to the second one because like we're setting up on their pergola and some things in her yard. So this is what's going to go here. This is what's going to go here. This is what's going to go here because it's all written out on the sheets, but sometimes, they can't figure it out. Like I write stuff down all the time and it makes sense in my brain. And then they look at it and they're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So what do you mean? So, but the other thing that did too is that the clients for those three were able to meet us there. So then it also gave them that sense of security because they were meeting her. It was professional. It wasn't just going to be that somebody else was showing up on the day of. And the reason that I did that is because three of them are corporate events, and one of them is a lady who just likes to spend $3,000 on her son's 6th birthday. So, because but she's like, she was the worst. She was worse than corporate because they're used to having a team and telling people what to do and not doing everything. But when it's a private party, she was like, I'm so disappointed. What do you mean you're not going to be here? You've done everything since his baby shower. I want you. And I'm like, I know you do. I'm disappointed too, but she's going to be able to, take care of everything. I'm overseeing production. It will all be made ahead of time. And we're setting her up for success because she'll know exactly where it goes. And that just really relieved her after she met her. So that's just like a nice thing to do too, if you're not going to be there. Emma said that for sites that they visit a lot and sites that are complicated, they take photos and keep them in a loading dock board on Trello because a photo is worth 1,000 words. We do the same thing with attaching photos to where it's supposed to go and sometimes putting that on our document. We do have some SOPs for some of our venues as well that are just a general, like list. This is who your contact is. This is what our hours are. If we have the code, how to get in, where the lock box is, what to do when we arrive. So that way everybody knows when they're able to go do those strikes or when I'm doing the setup so I don't lose it too. Okay, so anyone have any questions on that?
No, I mean, you start to allude to this in the next section with the teardown. The interactions that you have on site with the people there are really important. So obviously, if you're at a private home, it's different, right? Than versus like a public venue or whatever. introducing yourself, all that. Like we usually walk in with nothing in our hands, make sure we know everything is kind of just like, you know, we're gonna go set up here. This is how long we think it's gonna take. Da da da. If you need anything, like, we're just gonna get to it, kind of a thing. Are there certain things that you train your staff, like they say X, Y, Z, or what are some of those things that you do when you first go on site?
Yeah, so if it's a venue that has multiple rooms, then they always confirm the name of the client and that they are going into the correct room, because we have had clients also tell us like, we're in the far room and they were in the near room. So, and it could be, but you want to make sure that you're really, in the right room setting up.
Of course.
Is anyone there? I know people who've set up in the wrong room. We haven't had that. We did have a face painter go face paint at the wrong party that was next door to the party she was supposed to be at once. But then I got a call and she was like, where our face painter's not here. And I'm like, she sent me a picture that she was there. And she actually went up to the lady and was like, hi, I'm your face painter and I'm here for your event. So, and she was like, oh, okay, great. And when she talked to the lady later, she was like, I just thought that maybe I booked it and forgot. So,
oh my God.
Or that my husband did it or my mom did it, but
Surprise!
so now when they go in, they greet them by name and make sure that it's the correct party as well. So it's like, hi, Alexis, my name is Alyssa and I'm setting up the decor for, your daughter's birthday party today. Where would you like for me to place this? But we also always say our name. We are in company shirts, but this is Alyssa. I'm Alyssa with Party Lane. So nice to meet you if I haven't met them. Yeah, just check in, but especially to venues that have 2 rooms, because this didn't happen this weekend, but the venue that I was at this weekend is a restaurant, and one is a front garden room and one is like a dark and moody room. And all the communication, and we showed her pictures and we were like, she was like, yeah, place it against the black wall. The black wall is in the back room, but she was up front in the garden room, which is completely different. So we arrived and it said that it was in that room, and started to like bring things into the back. And then the next person walked in and they were like, I didn't know that we were getting balloons for the shower. And they were both bridal showers. And we had asked when we came in, but we had beat them. And we asked the venue, we said, we didn't say the name of the client. We just said, we're here to set up for the we're here setting up balloons for the bridal shower, instead of, the name in the bridal shower. And sure enough, there were 2 showers, but we were pretty confident because, we showed a picture like, this is where we're going to set it up. And it was in the other room. So the clients don't always know the venue either. That's like the important thing to know. So just always check with the venue that you're in the correct room. We luckily just had to walk down a hallway, right? So, pretty much everything that I have in an operating procedure is because we have made a mistake somewhere along the way. And so what happens is, whenever I'm like, we're going to make mistakes, but I don't like to repeat mistakes. So if it happens, then let's figure out how not to make that mistake again, so that we're not wasting time, product, energy. Okay, so for the tear down, like I mentioned, I used to just send people to the tear down and we would send them a picture of what the setup was so that they knew everything that they had to retrieve. But now, since we have had step stools left behind, a mag pole left behind, arrow pull bases left behind, we do include like the checklist so that everything that they bring out, they know that they need to check it and make sure that they bring it back in and pack it up before they leave, and that they're going to be responsible for that. And then we also check it off when we unload the van a 3rd time. So then if somebody still managed to leave something behind, we know right away on Monday instead of the next time that we're looking for it. Because you don't want to be, trying to load up your van then the next weekend and you're like, where's my box of all the extension cords? Because they took in the box and they left the box of extension cords there after they took it down. And now it's, like Thursday, you're packing for the weekend and you don't have any extension cords, and you're also racking your brain, like searching your space, looking for it, trying to find it, wasting time. Now you're, having to possibly go out and buy more, having to run back to the venue or send somebody to the venue in order to retrieve that item. So everything it costs us time, it costs us money. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't have enough of either. Okay, so making sure that we have instructions for how to take things down so that they don't get broken. I find that this is really important, going through directions for how they're going to carry walls, how they're going to wrap cords, especially on marquees, how they're going to stack them, if foam goes in between them, if they're going to be just like every single step of it. Backdrop stands, I've had people break backdrop stands because they didn't take them apart correctly. I've had a pole snap on an arrow pole because they just like lifted it and let it fly up, which the pressure snapped it. So just making sure that they know exactly, this is how we set it up, this is how we take it down. How do you transport your shimmer walls? So thanks for joining. We're almost done. So, okay. And then we go to the post-job unloading and inventory management. And that's going to be the same thing with your policies, just unloading, checking things back in. Do they need to clean them at that time? Mark them if there's going to be anything that is, scratched or has to be painted or has to be repaired, and putting it away where it belongs. And then the other thing that we have them do is, make sure that the vehicle is also clean and ready to go, that we process the job box. They know to never leave balloons in it, especially in the heat, because they will go bad because they start to deteriorate, and then they're more likely to pop if you leave them in the van, for a couple days because someone didn't unload it. So we process the job box. We remove all of the items from the van, except for a few things that stay in there, like our moving blanket, our step stool gets strapped to it. And we keep a wagon in there that has like our go kits. They have to sweep and clean it out, and then also make sure that they retrieve all of their personal items from it as well. Does anybody have any additional policies on that? No? Okay. So yeah, so I know this has been the hour. So like I said, I knew this is where we were going to make it through.
That's great. That's great. Hey, this is a lot of info. This is good to document it all. I love how specific you are, and like in putting those fields in there too. So like once you have this, you print it out. Probably like how often would you revisit this to revise it?
Yeah, I mean, I would love if I revise things pretty often. So because again, if we have a problem, then we make a change. So, but I would encourage everybody to maybe work on this week and put these procedures into place. Good. I'm glad that we inspire you, RC. Even if you're just you, like put it into place, because what it's going to do is it's also going to allow you the bandwidth to be able to think of how you could scale or grow your business too. Because you don't want to hire somebody and now you're training them and you don't know what to do. So just figure out what you do every single time and start to make note of it. If you need to make changes, because it's going to prevent you from making mistakes as well. Even if you're just a single, if you're a solopreneur, I made more mistakes when I was a solopreneur because I kept everything in my head. I didn't have anything on paper. It was a huge mistake. But I would love if people could maybe start to fill this out and even just look ahead at some of the other sections and start to fill out those workbooks. So that way, because this is going to be related, 5 is kind of like my equipment and supplies checklist. So that way I just put on there, like, what are the things that you might need for a job? So are you going to need a heat sealer? Are you going to need, so we don't take that with us every time, but I kind of review it as a reminder, like, oh yeah, I need to have that with us this time. Okay, this is what I was forgetting. Because again, if it's just all in my head, I know that Fatima had said that she has like the packing list that she needs for everything on her Trello board. I used to try that and I wasn't, I still made mistakes with it. But whereas if I'm like, okay, I have the board, what am I going to need? And I do the same thing that you do, Claudia, where I like write it on our job sheet. So that way it's all in one place instead of being multiple forms. Because for me, the more we have to look at, the more mistakes I'm going to make. I just need one thing to look at. But yeah, that way I'm able to look at it and just write it all down so that we remember to take it. So we have that in 5. And then, so in 6, that is just, I just put in what our production form looks like. And I do that for like my main production person. She just works from the invoice and that's fine. But if something is complicated or if it's somebody else, I don't necessarily want them to know what we sell everything for. So what I do is I write it down on the production form so that way they know exactly what they're going to be making or what they need to pull for the order. So, and then we could attach recipes to it if needed, but we keep our recipes on tablets too. So that way they could just go and swipe through to get that. Okay. Any questions, anyone?
So we'll call this part 1, and we'll continue with part 2 next week. And then we also have a special guest. The CTO of Fanfaire will be joining us for an Ask Us Anything session. Obviously, there's been a lot of evolution with the product, the design studio, now changing the front end stuff on the digital storefront. So I'm really excited to invite him in. He's a very charismatic, fun guy, and really smart. So I'm thrilled to have him join us. So thank you guys for your time and enjoy your day, enjoy your week. Oh, lastly, don't forget to post your favorite design from this week for the Fanfare Tough Text Challenge in the community. Great prizes, and I want somebody who is active in our community to win. So make sure.
Hey, Alexis.
Yeah.
I just wanted to kind of just mention one quick thing. That is for the solopreneurs that are out there and stuff. If you don't have staff at this point, try to network with your fellow balloon people in the neighborhood, in your area. Yes, they might be competitors, but a lot of times, they've been a great source for me when I first started out, because if I had big jobs, I can subcontract them now and do the jobs for me. And as we grew, it has been a big thing. So just as a little side note, our local chapter is the Southern California Balloon Network for anybody that's in that area. And we're having our membership drive and swap meet this coming Monday. So if you want to come meet people that could possibly help you in the future, come on by. Plus, if you have anything to sell, bring it by. We're having our swap meet. So just FYI.
Awesome. Yeah, in person's so great. It's so nice to build relationships. And actually, I had the opportunity to meet Claudia in person. She invited me to this session. And when I was out of town for the 4th of July, she stepped in. I gave her the list of products, a picture of what the setup was going to look like. And she came in and subbed in my business recently. So our procedure was not as fleshed out and as nice as Alyssa had just done today, but yeah, so networking is always a great thing. So
Yeah, and I get help from local, like we have a really good network of people around us too. We all help each other. It's especially with big jobs. And I am a really big believer in collaboration over competition. I mean, there's some people that I've learned, like I think that you just learn who you could trust and who you want to work with right from the beginning when we meet them, because some people are really willing to work together. And um it's like, I mean, I've had some people, I got a text message when I was on there because I do have another balloon pro in the area who's helping me this weekend when we're gone, because just for the one that's we're installing like a 12-foot octopus on a pergola outside in a really, really windy backyard. And so again, if it was like a standard setup, that's fine. And she's bringing her husband with to help her. But I brought in another balloon pro instead of sending her with a balloon assistant, because I'm like, we need someone else who's experienced on this job too. We don't just need her on the job and one other person. We need like 2 good people to be doing the job. So I love having a network like that. I think that's so important. And I also like I think that that's one of the best things about conventions and builds and going to all of those as well, is just because you develop the relationships. Because I do have other pros that I call in from other places to come out and help me as well. And they subcontract and just like help me for a few days or for the week. And it's so worth it, because then I don't need to necessarily bring in, if I just have like a couple big jobs that I need help with, so I don't need to hire someone else. But then we're not as overwhelmed because we have trained staff that's helping us for like 4 days, during that week. So love a Balloon Pro. Dominique said that she has some questions too. So hi, Dominique. Will I be seeing you again this year? Are you going to IBC? I've seen Dominique everywhere I've gone.
I don't know if I'm gonna make IBC, because I'm trying to get to Cali with Joette.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, pray intern. So yeah, and then trying to get to float. So
yeah.
But where is the computer? I should have powered it up. On the design studio, how do you upload your own things?
Let me show you. I will just go, let me share my screen. Where do I share my screen? Here we go.
I know, you'd think since I share my screen almost every week that I would know how to do it by now.
Okay, so you would go into Design Studio and then you're here. So if you've created a design before, you can click on design or just go into a design. So I'll just click on this design. And then so you can borrow our items here, or you can create a folder. And then as you create these folders, you want to label them something that so you can kind of categorize them. And then you just go in here and you can upload whatever you want.
I have that same butterfly wing.
You have that one?
Yeah.
I have some weird stuff in here. I mean, we went down the rabbit hole on K-pop Demon Hunters,
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh, we're obsessed.
I didn't
So
even know what Demon Hunters were a month ago. And now I've had like 3 parties for them.
yeah, I mean, I hope it's not Fast and Furious and it's over. Like, I think it's gonna be lasting. But yeah, you can just upload there. And then you can always, like, if you check it, you can delete it. So yeah.
Okay, where do you pull your uploaded images from the internet?
I have tons of images. So if there's something that you're looking for, I didn't want to like overwhelm people with this catalog. I feel like there's a lot in here already. But I have so many foil images. So like if there's something specific that you're looking for, anything that that you would find in our store setup tab down here, like any of this stuff, like the chairs, the cutouts, the florals, like, I mean, I
You
have,
got a little bit of everything.
oh
I was
my God,
looking
I
for
have everything.
like
I have tons
pumpkins
of
and
images.
stuff.
So if there's some of these images that you want, I can upload them just to a section in your store in its own folder. I pull images from the internet. For my backdrops, I personally like to take a very clear, head-on photo. Make sure that your camera is not tilted, because if you have like a chair, for example, like it would look like bigger on the top than the bottom, so it doesn't do well for like styling on screen. So make sure it's like straight on, the lighting is good, like sun should be at your back, or no like weird shadows or anything. You can always filter those things out, but when you start with a better quality image, it's just like it's easier.
Okay.
So I would get in the habit of taking photos of your backdrops every time you go on site, like right before you're going to set up, like get another picture of it, even though you're like, I have a good picture of this, just like get another picture, because sometimes you'll pair it with different things. I like to take pictures of the backdrops by themselves, because then I can just grab that and then grab like you know, say I have a wooden white tiara and then I have like a rainbow arch or whatever, then I can just like pair those two things and move them around on screen rather than having them locked. But having the picture of the two of them together is always good too. So then you like, you know, from the start that the scale of those two items together is right. Because sometimes like your memory can get distorted. You're like, I thought that I could have sworn that was like 4.5 feet. It's actually only like 3 feet. Like, what was I thinking? You know? So, and just for like a kind of a rule of thumb, like a lot of backdrops are in between, 6 and 7.5 feet. Like a lot of your backdrops are just going to be in that height range. Sometimes you'll pair it with like a 5 foot or whatever, but, so you want to measure things on the ruler on the design studio so that when you pull the balloons on screen and then hopefully you publish these designs to a storefront, all of the images are sized so that other things that are to scale all work together. Like the Starbursts are like, you know, 27 inches or whatever, and then you got your backdrops and everything looks to scale. It makes it look a lot more professional. So, and the balloons when they're dragged on there are already measured out for you. So, yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, good. Okay, I guess we'll wrap up. I'm gonna